just over the moon to welcome the incredible Louise Taylor and Sarah Thompson, two incredible women with incredible stories who are doing something absolutely amazing. And anybody who has seen since the collab dropped on Sunday night has just been buzzing about it. So I'd love to invite you here to now introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about yourselves, Sarah and Louise.
I'll let you go first, Sarah.
I was about to say I'd let you go first. Hello everyone. Thank you so much everybody for having me here. I'm still sometimes like, oh gosh, why am I here telling you all this? But it's so exciting. So I am Sarah Thompson and I own a company called Ted Stitch. And like Catherine has said there, we just launched our little collab, Louise and I, and it is all about boobies, which is just so apt for this week and breastfeeding week. So Louise, I'll let you say hello to everybody now too.
Hello. Yes, so I'm Louise from Little Forgive Me Nots. I was on Breastfeeding yesterday, so you might be sick of seeing me. But yeah, it's just such an honor to be here really, and also to like team up with Sarah from Ted and Stitch. I have been following Sarah for a couple of years, and through her journey with her wee fella, and she has really empowered me as a woman just to get up and keep going. So I'm coming at it from like a mindful kind of side of, I found embroidery a few years ago, and I just haven't looked back. And then seeing Sarah, we have actually never met each other in real life. And this is how powerful the internet can be, and peer support when we hit a low through anything, reaching out to people that really help you up is key. It really, really is. So I was like just super that Sarah was like, yes, let's do this. So she is wearing her lovely top, loud and proud, and then I have my little hanging away in the background, but there's Sarah's. So yes, we had a read collab that dropped on Sunday evening, and it has been going so well. So yeah, I hope you are loving it. We also have a giveaway. You can win Sarah's top, my hanging Ivy and Gold wee bracelets. So like they're wee memory bracelets. So if you're only a first time boober, I was saying to Erin over there, it'd be good to like swap wrists with her wee lovely bracelets. And then Precious by Carrie, she's given away a £40 voucher to go and get some of her £40 off a wee milky jewelry. I have my wedding ring done in hers. So yes, giveaway ends this evening, but our collab is on offer, or is available until the end of this week. So yes, that's a wee bit too much information, is it?
No, that's better than me. I was like, yes. I was leaving it all to you. But no, we just love it. It's so exciting, and I hope everybody else is loving it too, because it is, like Louise says, she's going at it from the mind perspective, and I'm going from it from totally body empowerment. And I just want everybody to feel, happy that, be proud that we are breastfeeding mummies, and there's no need for us to hide it. And yeah,
that's incredible. So empowerment seems to be such a massive thing for both of you, whether it be empowering your mind and your body and empowering into business and things like that there. So can you tell us a little bit about how you've actually got to this point in your own businesses and what inspired you to create your products?
Well,
Louise, I'll let you go first.
Well, I actually I run a herd salary project on the side. I've always been amazed by traditional skills, traditional crafts, and I was always the middle person in between the community and a traditional skill crafter. And one day, after I had lost, about 5 years ago, I lost my firstborn son in the middle of my pregnancy. Very unexpected. My world literally went upside down, and I was just, I'm a goer, I'm a get up and goer, so I didn't take any maternity leave or anything. I just went back to work, but I was in a completely different mind frame, different world. I did have my daughter Chloe, my eldest, who just was my saving grace, and she kept me going. So I had to get up in the mornings, I had to do normal things. So going to work was normal for me, but I was just beside myself. And I was standing in the middle of a workshop one day, and I wasn't there. I was just a body. And one of the crafters said to me, "You need to go and find yourself a craft, Louise, because you need to check this out. You're not the same person." So I said, okay. And it just kind of hit me. So I started sewing, and I wasn't really getting it. I didn't really find my fix from that. And then I picked up embroidery, hand embroidery, and then I went and bought an embroidery machine just on a whim. And I was like, I'm doing this. I love this. So I really just started from that, and I have been practicing really ever since. I wasn't really a business, but then some people started coming around and getting things put on their bags or their coats or something, and I was like, okay, am I going to turn this into a business or am I not? And then I seen other people, other women on Instagram and things saying, right, no, they're doing businesses, and I was like, I could probably turn this in, but then I was like, it's getting too busy. I'm not enjoying this as much as what I love making. And that's where then I think last year I kind of said, I need to start getting a bit of normalizing in this. And then I actually seen Nuala works for Future Screens, and they had a grant out to say about just investing in businesses and trying to get them online more, and just invest a wee bit of investment to support me. So I put in my very first business application to them, and I got it. And it was as if they were giving me the gold ticket to say that I was allowed to become a businesswoman. It was that yes, that I said, okay, they believe that I can do this. Oh my goodness. So then it just went from there, and they gave me the confidence that I was able to take on a business, and it's just went from one extreme to the other. It's like literally went from people coming around and saying, are you open, to people are coming every day, they're getting their products, they're getting their yarn, they're getting their punch needles, they're asking me questions. And it's been like a fast track to, oh my god, can I still do this? But I'm doing it, I'm winging it, and it's okay. So I think that's answered your question.
Absolutely. It's incredible that taking something to support yourself and find a way to free your mind again and find yourself again has literally empowered you to have this business and to support other people in your community as well. How about for you, Sarah?
So my journey is completely different, and somewhat, if I start right back to the start, I maybe should have done that in my introduction, but sometimes it's so hard when you come on. I nearly forget that people don't know us, especially when we're online. We were talking about this earlier. When you're sitting in your own living room or your own workshop, you forget that the people here don't have a clue. So I gave birth to my firstborn Alfie, and he was amazing. I breastfed him for 9 months. I loved him. Stopped at 9 months just because, I don't know, I kind of feel like that was the thing to do. You know, it was very pushed back then that, 9 months is enough, they're on solids, stop feeding. So my journey to business has been completely different, because then my second born, Nathaniel, at 9 months, he was diagnosed with cancer. And at that 9 months mark again, I was starting to wean him off. But what I didn't know was that was just going to be the start of the most incredible journey. So I fed him through hundreds of bags of chemo. I fed him awake after session of radiotherapy. I fed him lying on a bed in PICU, just me leaning over the top of him. And we basically think that breastfeeding, well, we don't think, we know, but breastfeeding along with his medical care really did help to save his life, but it also helped to save mine, because as a mum, when your child is so ill and so critically ill, I had nothing. I didn't know what I was going to do. How was I going to help him? And breastfeeding then kind of really became a lifeline for me too, because it was my role. It was something that I was going to be able to do. He didn't eat anything. He couldn't keep anything down but my milk. How incredible and how powerful is that in his lowest moments, when anybody was trying to feed him anything, give him anything, he couldn't have it. And when we went in and we thought we were going to get bad news about his weight and how he was going to have to be tube fed, he would have maintained, and they'd have been like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, well, I am breastfeeding them, but I didn't think it would have that far, but it just, it just rolled on, and it just turned into that actually I was his source of nutrition, and it was just an incredible journey for us. So to fast forward that then to our business, after Nathaniel got well, I definitely mentally just kind of lost my way, didn't know myself, and I just found life really tough. And bit like Louise, somebody said, you need something for yourself. And the one thing when Nate was sick, I used to always be like, I want to buy him something that says on it, you are awesome. And I could never really see anything. There's always be bits and bobs that you pick up in Tesco's and Asda, but I could never see anything that actually physically said on it, Nathaniel, you're awesome. Alfie, you're the best big brother. Arthur, you're incredible. And I needed that. So my husband then was like, in my lowest moments, was like, look, maybe this is what you should do. Maybe you should make these things. So I bet similar to Louise then, we invested what was a lot of money back then, because we were really in a terrible place financially, mentally, you name it. We were in the pits, and we invested, and here I am today with a brand that I started to empower my son, and now I'm hoping that I can empower women, empower everybody just with their own words. And that is the joy of my business at Ted and Stitch, is it's completely personalizing, and I want everybody to feel the joy that I feel from the things that I make.
That's really lovely, Sarah. Oh.
It's truly incredible to hear your stories of taking something that was very, very difficult and inspiring yourselves, and taking inspiration from others who are speaking to you and listening to others. And so often we have times when we're not listening to, we stop listening to those around us because it's a difficult time, but you taking in that's moment. So if you could reach out to somebody who might be in a difficult time, or and we all experience our different times differently, so I don't expect it to be like for anybody, but if you could reach out to somebody who's currently in their depths and say something to inspire them, what would you like to say to them?
Well, I'm a talker. I can't go into I do have my dark days, but I have to grab my phone and either talk to my husband, but sometimes he just doesn't get it. I think men have a different perspective when they're grieving or when they're going through difficulties. It's their grief is different to, I think, a woman's. But I would always voice it to somebody, a like-minded mum. Unfortunately, I have grew a bit of a community around me of other grieving mummies. So they just know that I'm having a really, really down day. They know how the pits that you can get. Even today, somebody called around and I just offloaded something, and then that made me go a bit quicker then in the afternoon, because I was like, oh, I was feeling really crappy there this morning, and then we've discussed that with somebody else, because they know that it's not going to sound strange. So I was like, right, that's no problem. So it's always about reaching out to, you will firstly start and finding where you can get the support you need, and if that is with counseling, starting to accept what you're going through, if it's counseling or if it is just some online support forums and things, just you have to reach out. You can't sit on your own. It's just going to get darker. So, and I'm Sarah, I'm sure you're from a different perspective, as in, you had to keep positive if you were negative.
That's definitely my kind of, when I see somebody going through a really tough time, and it's funny, it doesn't matter how deep and dark your day is. I remember sitting in PICU beside Nathaniel, like thinking this is the end, watching another mama, and I thought she was worse than me, and she thought I was worse than her. You can always see somebody and you can always relate, and like you say, there's no like for like. But something that I always say to even my friends when they're going through it, I'm like, just find one good thing in every day. And every day, like, it did not matter where we were sitting, what news we'd been given. We've been given the worst news possible at so many different times, and I can't believe sometimes that we're even still here. And I always say, find something good. In that conversation, if somebody said to me, there's a 99% chance that yours aren't going to make it out of this, I was like, I had to come home here and I was like, we have a 1% chance that we are gonna, and it's holding on to that little tiny piece of positivity in that day. And that is in your darkest moment, you just have to keep looking at that light and being like, okay, there is that light and I am going to get it. I definitely find it a lot harder. Louise is saying about talking to people. I'm still really good. I'm really, really good at talking about our journey, but I actually find it really hard to be like, I'm feeling sad today because, I kind of wonder, like, I was the mummy. I wasn't the one that was actually physically going through the treatment and all. I was just there holding his hand, supporting. So sometimes I find it hard, but definitely whenever my husband pushed me and was like, you need to go to counselling, gosh, it was just great to find somebody that I wasn't burdening, because I know that a lot of us, and I know a lot of mummies, when you're finding it tough, you feel like you're maybe put that onto your own mummy, or you burden it onto your husband, or you burden it onto your friends, and then you're worried about them casting that over them. So sometimes I think it's nice to find an outside source that you can just offload it onto, align your thoughts, and just try and find that little bit of positivity and something that's going to get you through.
I think that's so important, and knowing that there is places out there that you can access support, and we will be sharing some links later on through our Facebook page for anybody who is looking for support and would like to find somebody to listen to. There's some incredible people out there, and I suppose to almost bring it back around to breastfeeding, I know that all three of us have had great access to support through places like Breastfeeding NI, which is an incredible group. And we were talking earlier about peer support and about how that can really be key to it. So for you, having experienced breastfeeding from so many different perspectives across different children and through different challenges, what helped you with your breastfeeding journeys and brought you to where you are now with your passion for breastfeeding?
Well, for me, I don't know. After I had lost my wee man, I didn't actually know this. This is going to sound really silly, but I didn't know after I had given birth to my stillborn that my milk would come in. I know that sounds really normal, like that's because I did deliver a baby, but nobody actually told me that this was going to happen. And I tried to donate that milk, because there was only hope, and it was the only thing that I was living for at the moments after. But then after it, and then I had my rainbow baby, I was like, right, I am getting my donation. I have to give back in some way, because I don't want another mummy to experience what I have. So then for me to actually feed my baby alongside helping another mummy, or it was actually turned out another 3 babies with my donation, that I was empowering myself to keep going, and then helping my wee man to grow up, and then another 3 babies. I was like, do you know what? If like my angel is looking over me, he's going to be super proud of me. I'm going to be proud that my body has actually helped other people. And then like I would say to my wee boy Lyndon, he's 4 now, like and then I went on and had Jude, and I was donating them milk with Jude, and I was telling him the story about me donating while he was while I was feeding him, and he was just so like, I know this is going to sound like my head's so big, but he actually thinks that I have superpowers, like that I can actually produce milk to help other babies. And I was really, really, I was just so privileged to actually meet one of the parents that I was donating my milk to. And it was so amazing just to actually say, like that's what I've done to help you. And they were so grateful. And yeah, it helped me. Even now, so I'm still breastfeeding, it's helping me connect with my kids more, especially when you are grieving and you actually have that fear and that anxiety that your kids are randomly going to go, or you're reconnecting, it's grounding you, and you're going, no, it's okay. It settles me so much. So I couldn't thank breastfeeding enough, or my body enough, to be able to help my kids grow up. I think, is that on my own point still? And I haven't rambled.
I think that's amazing. It really feeds into, ignore the pun there, it really feeds into the empowering yourself and like I said, about finding your pace, and you're obviously finding that between your feeding and the embroidery and bringing all those things together. How about for you, Sarah? Where did you or where were you looking for support, or where were you finding support, and what made differences for you?
So I'm kind of going from a different perspective. Whenever I started breastfeeding, I was completely, if I go from kind of like a support of how I got to get to feed, it was so difficult for me. Nobody around me fed, and I was given a baby, and I was like, oh gosh, what am I meant to do? I have boobs, but nobody has told me how do I get this baby onto my boobs. So I was really, really lucky that one of my friend's mums was a breastfeeding coordinator in the hospital, and she came down and she really, really, really helped me and really empowered me. But when I got home then, I was like totally alone. And I was so blessed to have a friend who just came around one day and was just like, I just couldn't get him on. I just didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do. Hands up, you're born with boobs, but you don't know what to do. And she came around and she was like, you're engorged. That's what's wrong. We need to get the engorgement out. And she kind of helped me, got him latched on, and introduced me to breastfeeding Northern Ireland, to know that there was another mummy at 2 a.m. up feeding her baby, going through the same kind of thing, was incredible. Like, it was just so good to have that support, and it helped me so much to know that I wasn't alone, because no matter what support you have around you, when you get handed this little baby, nobody else cares about that baby as much as you will. And it really took me a long time to get my head wrapped around it. You know, why did nobody love this little child the way I did? And it was just so good to know that there was other breastfeeding mummies there, that actually I wasn't alone, and they were there. They needed the help, they needed the support. And I found so much support from new friends and new people that came around me, as well as, you know, peers that were already feeding and were able to kind of show me what I was meant to be doing.
Definitely. And I think we hear the statement, growing your village, so often, and we can have our own individual villages for different aspects of our lives, and it's so important to bring that together. But something that it seems to come across with both of you is an education side that is really, really lacking, particularly here in Northern Ireland. If you could introduce one thing to the curriculum in schools, or in general to the public, what would you like people to learn about breastfeeding?
Oh gosh, we were talking about this before we come on to camera, and I feel like it's already gone such an amazing direction. You know, from whenever I was feeding 7 years ago, Alfie, to it was really, you know, it was taboo. There wasn't that many people feeding. I really just want people to learn that it is so normal. And I just want people to know that when you get your baby, it's okay to not know what to do. So don't be scared. I just want them to go into schools and be like, right, when you have babies, do not be scared when they hand that baby. It's okay that you don't know. There will be help. There will be people. Your body will guide you. Your baby will guide you. Nobody ever told me that we would work it out. You know, that's them simple words. Nobody ever said, you're going to be able to do this and you will work out. All I ever heard was, it's quite difficult. It's very hard, and you need to get the latch right. And there was so much focus on what could go wrong. I really needed to hear somebody say to me, and I just want everybody to hear, you can do this. Like, this is going to be great. This might be hard for a week or two, but then it is just going to be wonderful, and your mind is going to explode, and all those lovely hormones are going to be there, and you and your baby are going to have this amazing bond. And I really just want everybody to know that and to hear it.
I know I'm the same, Sarah, and also I don't know, I always manage to find a fact about breastfeeding in my daily life. So like, it's just everybody being more aware of the facts and talking about it as if they're not like news. You know, like me and Caitlin are working in the workshop. She's only 19, she has no kids, and like I would be talking to her. I don't know why it comes up every day, and then I would just be saying to her about, like, you know, do you know breastfeeding like reduces your chance of like ovarian cancer and breast cancer, and then she's like, are you just like a wealth of knowledge? Like, but if it's just the chat that you need to normalize every day, that then she'll know that and she can pass that on to her friends, and that doesn't happen in school. And I don't know, there was a couple of years ago, I was actually researching about what is actually on the curriculum in school about breastfeeding. And it was literally one question on like a GCSE paper. And I was like, well, you're not going to feed your family with that question. You know what I mean? So it's just normalizing it, chatting about it daily, because it is a daily, it's like drinking water. It's like getting it normal. And yeah, well, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think normalization of breastfeeding is where we're absolutely getting our information from, because it comes back to that the village idea. If you're seeing it, you'll do it. Earlier today, we were talking with Gabrielle Palmer was on, and they were talking about the fact that wherever you go, if you've never heard somebody sing, how will you ever know how to sing? How will you know what a song sounds like if you've never heard somebody else sing it? And it's similar with, or it's the same with breastfeeding. How are we truly supposed to know? We can't truly learn from books. We need to see it around us and feel that support around us. We've got a question in the chat. Ciara, would you like to come on and ask it, or would you like me to?
Hi, I might just have a bit of noise in the background. No, I'm just wondering, I'm always kind of thinking, what makes you kind of breastfeed in the very beginning? I don't know if I can even pinpoint it for myself. Seeing it definitely does, but I remember with my first, he's 5, and I was breastfeeding him, and I was fully sure I was, and I don't really know why, but we still bought some breast milk substitute, a tub of it on the way home. Like, I don't know why. So I'm just wondering for the two of you, what kind of got you to breastfeed in the very beginning? Like during pregnancy, did you kind of know you were going to, or what, you know? Thanks.
I was really young and dumb. Paul and I got married and had a honeymoon baby, and I was 22. I had been studying a nutrition degree at university, and you know, it was all like all these great facts, like Louise had been saying there about the facts, like these amazing facts about breastfeeding, and I was like, makes your baby smarter, it makes them healthier. And you know, sometimes I wonder, was I getting geared up for the journey that I was going to go on with my second born? I don't know, but like the world aligned itself, and whenever I was pregnant, I was like, I am not buying bottles. I'm not. Everything's open 24 hours. I'm not going to do it. I am just going to, and I am the most determined animal you will ever meet. I'm not competitive, but like I'm so determined when I decide I'm going to do something. So I didn't load myself up with any information. I did not go to any birthing, anything. All these lovely things that I done with my second just didn't seem to be as big a thing, or maybe I just wasn't in, you know, the hub of knowledge. And I just totally gave birth, and they were like, are you going to feed? And I was like, yep, somebody show me what to do. And I got in touch with that breastfeeding coordinator, and from then it just rolled on. Unfortunately as well, I didn't have a great start with my firstborn. He was born with congenital pneumonia, and we actually had to stay in hospital for a really long time. I didn't actually get the support maybe that, I don't know, looking back, maybe I could have got. I don't know, but I think that time alone, so I didn't have anybody coming into the house telling me, oh, try a bottle. And I didn't have anybody coming in and me being like, oh, I don't want to feed in front of them. So I missed out on a lot of the things that, you know, society would say would change, and the perspective as other people would change. And it was totally just my mind and my baby for what was a scary, but what actually turned out to be a beautiful 14 days in hospital of just me and this little baby getting to know my boobs, getting to know my baby. And that's what really gave me such a good start, really, the knowledge of what breastfeeding can do, and then getting kind of left alone and not having everybody else's opinions on it.
Yeah, I kind of when I was when I first started breastfeeding, when I first fell pregnant, nobody in my family had breastfed at all. So everybody was kind of, nobody talked about how you're going to feed your babies. It was like assumed that you would have bottle fed, or you would have tried to breastfeed and then failed. So and I think that was kind of like the conversation that nobody really had. So I can remember I started in the lonely hours when you're morning sickness, and you just Googling because you're so scared of doing something wrong in your first pregnancy. And I can remember then Googling, getting all this information, and then like, why does nobody do this? And like Sarah, I was like, I'm determined. So I didn't buy anything either. I had the same opinion. Everything's open 24 hours. I'm like, no, that why? Like, it is natural. This is what my boobs are meant to do. So yeah, basically the first time then when Chloe came along, she came 4 weeks early, which then was another story. I was just like, okay, this is not meant to happen. But then I just popped her on and she latched, and I was like, okay. The midwives thought that I was an experienced mum. I was like, you need to tell me what to do. And they were like, oh, do you look like you've done this before? And I was kind of like, no, I'm just sitting here feeding. And then I got, what do you call that, nipple cream, because nobody told me that it was going to be really, really sore. So I got that nipple cream because they give you this wee tiny tube, and I just thought you just smeared it on all day long. And they were like, no, that affects the latch. And I was like, well, nobody's telling me this information. So yes, anyway, it was Chloe was latched on amazing, even though she had loads of nipple cream to kind of tackle in the whole process. But yeah, I kind of was just like, we're doing this. And I think the first, like, that first bond that you have, like your baby is like this like goddess. Well, I had a wee girl and I was just like, she just taught me how to be a mother, and she just went everywhere with me. And I can remember people being like, can I hold her? And I was like, no, this is my child and she'll need just me. Don't ask me to hold her. I was like, it was just, I was so adamant. I was so proud that I could feed her. And like I kept saying to people, like, my body is keeping her alive. It's kept her alive all her life inside me, and now it's keeping her alive outside. I was just amazed. So I was just a bundle of facts the entire time when Chloe was, I was just like, yes. And she does feed every 45 minutes, but that's normal, guys. Yes, that's my journey. I was just positive all the time.
That's amazing. I think that it says so much of what people could have if people recognize the amazingness of their bodies. Maybe that could be something that improves our breastfeeding rates here in Northern Ireland, if we all recognize the amazingness of our bodies. I know Nuala wanted to ask a question, so if Nuala, would you like to come on and ask a question?
It was just a wee trip down memory lane in discussion with Louise. So I remember training to be a peer supporter, and Louise just being this wee bright light in this room full of all these people that seem to know so much about breastfeeding. And at times there was some hilarious things that we found out that I never knew about breastfeeding, like in that course after having fed Rasha for quite a long time. I think it's about 8 months at that time. And I just wanted to say to Louise, like, what she brought to that room was just such, just such positivity. And I was learning things like the way that I had held Rasha, because on one side I held her like I was bottle feeding. Like I had a nipple that pointed up into the air. Then only finding out how to hand express, like on the peer support course. Just some hilarious moments, and Louise was always like the most positive person in the room.
I know, because when you are sitting in a room full of women, I get overwhelmed, because I know women are trying to be so vocal, and I know a lot of women are right, like, they are right. It's just how they kind of come across, kind of scares people away. But like when I can remember sitting in that room and everybody was just like in awe, and then everybody got quite angry too, because like there was only so much that we could actually tell these women that we were supporting. And like I can't actually remember them kind of saying, leave it up to your body. Like, it is, you have to listen to your body. If your body's saying that there's something wrong, that's when you have to actually go and ask other people. And if the only people that is on a forum telling you that you can't do this, then I believe in that's where the support I'm going to get. No health visitor is going to answer my phone call in the middle of the night. So that's where I'm going to go and get my support. And I just felt like when I was in that course, it was kind of like I wasn't allowed to tell people that. But I know for me, that helped me, and that's what I can say about it. I think that's okay. Is that okay to say? See, this is it. You have to. You're always kind of looking over your back. This like.
I think that's where peer support and peer support training and where we find our village can really differ for every person for what they're looking for, and very much in the way of how we learn is different, how we experience things is different as well, and what we want to hear from other people is so important to ensure that people are listening to what our needs are as we listen to our own needs when it comes to breastfeeding. Something that came up there when you were talking was you were chatting about how, trying to think what way we can say it. Sharing your experiences has been really key. And maybe, sorry, this is something that we had talked about before we came on, but you both seem to have been very much involved in speaking and sharing your experiences of breastfeeding with other people. So whether that be with the BFI Gold accreditation sessions or being involved in peer support training, what voices do you think need to be heard most by healthcare providers, trainers? What do they need to be hearing from, and who do they need to be hearing from in your experiences?
So I gave a chat one time to Going for Gold Award for the Northern Trust, I think it was, and it was great. I loved doing it. There was a room full. I actually thought I was turning up to maybe about 10 people because I had give loads of chats before a breastfeeding workshop I would have went to every week and talked to new mummies, and I loved it because I felt that they needed to hear it from someone who was currently in it, because when you're not in it anymore, you can't quite remember, Mother Nature makes you forget all these things. And I remember going and being like, oh Gillian, you definitely told me there was going to be like 10 people here and there's like 200. But they were all healthcare professionals. And I thought, oh gosh, I'm not a professional. Why have you got me here? And she was like, because you're a mummy and you're living this, tell your story. So I stood up and I told my story, and it was received so well. And at the end, I was standing with my mum, and a health visitor walked up to me and she said to me, she was like, I have never heard a story quite like this about you breastfeeding your son through cancer, and what it done for him, what it done for you, and how it has obviously benefited both of you. She's like, I always tell everybody that they should breastfeed because I am told that I have to tell people that. But she's like, I'm going to walk out of here today, and when I tell people that breastfeeding is best for them and for their baby, I am going to be telling them the truth, because I know, because I see you, I hear you, and I completely understand what you're saying. And I remember walking away being like, I feel like everybody needs to hear this now, because I need all health professionals to know just how important this journey was and how important our breast milk is in not only a sick child and their recovery, but for any child, if it can do that at your lowest, oh my goodness, what absolutely wonderful benefits is it going to do to a healthy, bouncy baby? So I just think it's so important that mothers are listened to, and that stories like mine and Louise's are took on board, and people think, right, okay, that there is something in this. It's not just, it's not just something that we tell people, it's true.
I know it's not crazy talk. It's actually, I know, well, I can remember when I went to, with Chloe, I went to like the postnatal like class, and I was in a room with a lot of older women that were pregnant and having babies, and a lot of them, they were adamant that they were bottle feeding, and the girl that was taking it wasn't given any information on bottles, and it was all about breastfeeding. But them women were actually, they had their decision already made that they were bottle feeding, and they were like, no, but I want to know more about this. And they were all first time mummies, but they didn't know about breastfeeding. They had never, like, they were older than me. I was 25 when I had Chloe, and they hadn't researched breastfeeding, so you couldn't flip that mind frame at all. You just couldn't. And they were like, I want to know about this. When's the first time you give this, blah blah blah. And the people couldn't, because they were baby friendly hospital, and that's what their talk was. They were trying to advocate about breastfeeding. So I was sitting there like wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, being like, I'm breastfeeding, and what are they talking about? Why can't they try this? So I feel that when it's even them people were too far gone, it is bringing it back down and bringing it to from like Lyndon, Chloe's age, like they're 7 and 4, and normalizing it. Like my ones know when I go to feed Lynn or Jude, it is I'm breastfeeding them. They understand. My cousin, I would see her regularly. She has a wee baby right now, and she's just feeding in front of Lyndon, not even the bat of an eyelid. Don't. And once that is normal in their head, and they grow up, it's not even an option. That's the thing. So I really think that it needs to come back, and you need to start at the early ages to normalize it. And then I think that's when it'll start, generations will flip, and we'll start hearing a lot more of the realistic problems that we encounter, and then we can actually unravel it a wee bit. But we're just up against the forces of formula and us crazy people trying to convince people to not formula feed. It's crazy.
I think that's where we're at the stage now, of hopefully hitting critical mass now of people that are talking about this and normalizing it and being out and about. And I think some anecdotal evidence of the idea that because people have been at home breastfeeding their lockdown babies, and they've had those, similar to yourself, Sarah, of those 2 weeks of just them with their babies and breastfeeding, that will normalize it for them and be out and about, and hopefully breastfeeding, and more people will see breastfeeding everywhere, and hopefully lots of people will see your wonderful t-shirts and your wonderful weaves in people's homes, and seeing the normalization of breastfeeding and of breasts in general in our society, and taking away the sexualization of that. I know that we were planning on wrapping up a little bit earlier than this, but I really wanted to bring it back to tell us more about the collaboration that you have been doing, the key reasons behind your doing it, and where everybody can find your information to find out more.
Louise, you're so good at that. I at the promotion.
I do. Well, as we had said, like, me and Sarah, we're very like-minded, and we are very much about empowering women. Sarah is coming from body empowerment, and her mix are amazing. Her designs are just so heartfelt, and she, like, when I first started following Sarah, I was just like, she really cares about her brand and the image that she's trying to give out. So we have just been chatting now for a few months, like, well, I don't know, how is it, a year? I can't even remember.
Probably since before Christmas, saying that we would do something, and I kept saying we're going to do something meaningful. Didn't I say that? I was like, we've both been on 2 crazy journeys, and every time we tried to do something, it just didn't work out. And I was like, no, but we're going to do something that really means something to both of us, and it has to. And we got there, didn't we, Louise?
Yeah, we did. We eventually got there. And and Sarah's mech is just lovely, and it's just something, a real statement. Actually, one of my cousins, she has took hers over to the Cayman Islands, because it's actually illegal over there to like bathe topless, and she's like, well, I can't get my boobs out, so I'm just going to get my t-shirt out. So, so she went with that. And then mine is a wee mini wall hanging, just to remember after the years after you can't. I know. Thank you.
So beautiful. It is so beautiful. Like, honestly, Louise is like the most talented person ever. It even has a little handmade by Louise on the back. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. So it's just something just to remember your journey. If you're not wearing the t-shirt, just in your wee kid's bedroom, or even in your room or something. And yes, it's available over at Sarah's website, and it's available all week. So yes, and thanks for the sale so far. We have had a really, really good response with it. So we're just like super excited just to join forces.
We're delighted. And if anybody else, you can follow us on Instagram, because we have been storying flat out about it, and we've got the competition running as well, and you can find it on both of our pages, Ted and Stitch and Little Forget Me Nots. Oh, I don't think your microphone's on, Catherine.
I did so well to make it the whole way through the session without that. So here, I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your stories and your experiences with us today. Thank you for sharing your mind and your thoughts with everything that we've talked about today. And I really do hope that everybody goes along and checks out the collaboration. remember that the competition closes tonight, so don't miss out on that opportunity. And we will have Precious by Kerry, who is in on that competition as well, is joining us on Saturday. So be sure to sign up for that session to find out more about her. We had a really exciting year with her last year. Really looking forward to this Saturday to hear what she has got to say there as well. But thank you both, Sarah and Louise, so much. And thank you everybody for joining us and your questions and your comments. And we will see you at the next session, which is our Baby Grow Book Club this evening at 8 p.m. See you all soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.